Hey, what's up, guys? Mariano here, reporting from Hustler Casino, where I just finished losing a bunch of money. But today is not about that. Instead, it's about Lex's biggest pots from recent years. I think you guys are going to enjoy these. I believe I am actually involved in one of them, or at least at the table. So yeah, a lot of fun hands coming up, and I hope that they go a little better than the ones I just played here. Let's get into the video.
Thank you for that intro, Mariano, and he is correct. I'm going to be going over the largest pots I've played over the last 2.5 years, ranging from 10+ thousand all the way up to 70+ thousand. The biggest pots I've won and lost. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Let's go.
Oh my, what is going on here? Got an action-packed last 30 minutes of the stream here.
That was so horrible. I almost spilled my chips in the worst pot.
Oh no!
Lex.
Oh, no.
2 kings against 2 aces and a 3-bet from 9s from OSC?
Oh no.
Oh, God.
Oh no. I mean, he has one move, right?
The phrase is, hold on to your butts.
Oh no, he's all in.
He's all in for piles.
Bill obviously makes a snap call and tells me right away he's got aces, and immediately my heart drops. Oh my God. I ask him to run out the board 2 times because it's such a big pot, and he agrees. So we're going to see 10 cards here. We got to get lucky or we're going to lose a massive one. We don't get any help on the first board. Aces hold $10,000 in the middle. One-time dealer. Give us a king. Queen, queen, jack. Doesn't look good for us until the turn's the king of spades, giving us a full house, and we're going to chop this one up. Thank you, sweet baby Texas Poker Jesus. The cutoff player makes it $125. A new player on the button with a fresh 10K stack re-raises to $350, and we have aces in the big blind. What a beautiful spot. I decide to cold 4-bet here to $1,100. Cutoff player folds, but the button player wants to stick around. He doesn't think for too long before I hear him say, all in. Oh my God, what the hell is going on? I look up and all of his chips are in the middle, $10,000. I make this snap call. I show my pocket aces right away, and then I realize, holy shit, this is the biggest pot I've ever played in my entire life. He's got $10,000. I've got $15,000. This is a $20,000 pot, and I've got aces. If I lose this pot, it'll be by far the biggest pot I've ever lost. If I win, it'll be by far the biggest pot I've ever won. I decide to ask if he wants to run it once or twice. He leaves it up to me. So we decide to run out this board 2 times. $20,000 in the middle. Let's see if we can hold.
Get the diamond.
When he goes all in for $10,000, I put him on queens or kings, which have now made a set and are beating us. The second board comes out 10 high with 2 spades. I don't have a spade in my hand. The turn card's another spade. If he's got pocket kings with the king of spades, we could get scooped here on the river, but luckily it's a red card. I look over at him. He looks back at his cards and mucks. What an insane sweat that was. We get it all in with the best hand you can possibly get and hold over 2 runouts to profit over $10,000 in one single poker hand. To the next hand, where it starts out with a lot of $40 calls. 4 calls in front of me before I look down with a small blind at a very powerful hand, ace king offsuit. I bump it up to $500 here. A lot of dead money, a lot of call happy players, and Sashimi now 3-bets me in the third blind to $2,000. Action folds back over to me. I started the hand with a little over 200 big blinds, holding ace king, facing a 3-bet to $2,000. What should we do?
All my chips.
Snap call.
One time.
Wow.
I have it.
That's not good news.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna do one thing.
Probably, yeah.
I 4-bet jam and get snap called, and just like that, I'm playing an $18,000 pot on Hustler Casino Live. I decided before I got here, I'm just going to run out the board one time for max pain. I have no idea what she has, but I guess she's probably got jacks, queens, aces, kings, or ace king. So when the flop comes out king high, I'm feeling pretty good about my hand. Turns a complete brick, deuce of diamonds, shouldn't change anything at all. And the river cards, the 8 of hearts, I've got top pair, top kicker. I show my hand and Sashimi nods her head, goes to muck her cards, and then slow rolls me and shows pocket kings for top set.
Slow roll. Got him.
Oh my God, what a cooler. She slow rolled you? Yeah. That's okay. You were warned about that. Oh! It's okay.
Billy, she's doing it again.
Good. Love slow rolls.
All right? Yeah, she did. It's okay. I'll get it back.
My very last hand of the night, I get dealt in, pocket kings. Literally the last hand I was going to play, I pick up a premium. Kings, I raise to 100. The same guy who has just been relentlessly 3-betting me all night, 3-bets me to $300 next act. The recreational player on the button gets in there with a cold call for $300. I'm not messing around. I'm super deep stacked, over $10,000 deep. Pocket kings, I 4-bet to $1,400. Both my opponents make the call. Holy crap. $4,500 plus in the middle. Please, poker gods, do not let me get stacked on my very last hand. 3 ways to the flop, 4-bet pot, pocket kings to 993, 2 hearts. Well, I think I like this board. There's no ace on the flop. I don't think they're going to have a 9. It's less likely because there's 2 9s out there. I feel pretty good about betting here with pocket kings, so I make it $1,200. Under the gun plus 1 who 3-bet me and called my 4-bet, calls $1,200. And the button who called a 3-bet, called my 4-bet, calls $1,200 as well. Over $8,000 in the middle here with pocket kings, multi-way 4-bet pot. Can you think of a good turn card for us? I can. How about another 9 giving me a full house? So I decide to bet around 1/4 size of the pot, $2,200. Under the gun plus 1 very quickly folds his hand. Now the action's over here on the button. The recreational player who just sat down just about an hour ago, and he doesn't fold and he doesn't call either. He raises me to $4,600. What is going on here? Does he have a 9 for quads? Does he have aces? I mean, he really shouldn't be raising any hand here. This has got me in the blender a little bit. The truth of the matter is, if he's got quads or a slow played pocket aces and he's beating us, this is just our time to die. I guess last hand of the night, we might go broke. We might lose over a $20,000 pot. I am all in. As the dealer is counting out my chips, I realized that I slightly miscounted my stack pre-flop. I thought I had about $10,000, but it turns out I'm all in here for $8,200, which means I started the hand with around $12,000. The dealer gets to count. It's $8,200. It's $3,600 more to my opponent once he finds out the number. He makes a pretty quick call. Holy crap, we're playing a $24,000 pot here. My last hand of the night, I think I'm ahead, but maybe I'm getting coolered. He could have aces, he could have quads, maybe a worse pocket pair. This is the biggest pot I've ever played in my life. I have 100% of my own action. It's 2 a.m. at the Wynn in Las Vegas. A huge pot brewing here. Let's see what happens on the river.
Time's full of kings.
You have money.
You have money. You have money.
I told you, okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8,020. So you have this. 8,020.
Moving on to the last hand of the night, and it is a fun one. $100 straddle is on. Mike X calls $100. Tyrone calls. Sandman, Sia, Nate, DGAF, Sertow calls over $800 of dead money in the middle, and I peel back pocket queens.
Bump it up.
Who's gonna poop in the punch? Who's bumping it up?
Bunch of limps, and Lexo wakes up with queens.
Mr. Coppertone here.
I'll go
Copper tone.
16.
1,600.
Man. Never inviting this guy.
Giant raise here. And now Tyrone is going to back raise, jam the ace-6 suited, and
It's like 10,
run
right?
it straight into the mouth of the beast here. Snap call from Lexo.
How many times?
One time.
One time.
One time, somehow does have 43% equity, but not so much when Lexo flops quads.
Queen in the window, followed by another one, quads on the flop, and a $20,000 pot in Los Angeles, California at Hustler Casino Live. It doesn't get too much better than that. Our stack has now risen to $37,000. About 30 minutes into the stream, I get into a big one. Todd raises in the hijack to $250 before Alec, who has been very aggressive so far this session, 3 bets out of the cutoff to $800. I've got ace-10 of diamonds on the button. I want to try to play some big pots versus 2 late position raises. I decided to put in the cold 4-bet to $2,000. Back over to Todd, who makes the fold, but Alec, playing $20,000 effective with me, ends up making the call. Over $20,000 deep. With that said, let's get to the flop. 9-5 deuce, 2 diamonds. Huge flop for me. I flopped the nut flush draw, 2 overcards. He checks to me. I bet $1,300. I'm expecting him to fold or call here. I don't feel like he should really ever have any raises on this board in a 4-bet pot, but he does find the raise to $4,000. I look over at him and ask him if those are all the big chips he's playing and how much money he has behind. He's got about $16,000 left in his stack. Kind of an interesting spot. If I had aces, kings, and queens here, I would most likely just call. Maybe I would go all in with a hand like pocket jacks or pocket queens without a diamond for protection. I would most likely call here with all my strong hands, so I'm going to call with my draws as well. This pot is getting huge. 12,000 in the middle. Turn card is a king. Not the best card, not the worst card. Alec decides to slow down now and check over to me. This is another interesting spot. Once he checks, I feel like he's got hands like pocket tens and pocket jacks, raising to see where he was at. Maybe he could have a hand like king queen, king jack of diamonds. I could bet really small here, but if he shoved on me, it would be a gross spot. So I decided to check behind, try to take my equity to the river, and I hit it. 9 of diamonds, the nut flush for me. The board does pair. The action's over on Alec. He's got $16,000 behind, $12,000 in the middle. A huge pot brewing early on in the stream. Let's see what he does.
Or a made hand, and it's a board pairing diamonds.
That's what he's doing, man. That's what he's doing. It's literally what Mike just said. He chose to rep diamonds, and Lexo had him.
And usually,
I like him. Y'all can keep him around for a little bit. I like him.
About 20 seconds of thinking, and Alec goes all in. I snap call with the nut flush. He tells me you're good. Ace-10 of diamonds is going to take down a $45,000 pot, the biggest pot I've ever played in my entire life, by over $20,000, and the biggest game I've ever played in my entire life as well. After the full house versus full house, I add on for another $10K. So I'm in this poker game for $55,000, sitting on $48,000. I'm down $7K. If I come all the way here to California, I want to play some big pots, so I raise now ace-9 suited to $300. A new player in this game who just sat down 3 bets me out of the small blind at $1,300 to go. Action back over on me, and I feel like with ace-9 suited, we're going to be dominated a lot when he 3 bets out of the small blind. So I think a fold is fine. I feel like a call is okay as well. But I actually think the best option here could be putting in another raise and making my hand a 4-bet bluff. The reason behind this is because I think this player is going to have a pretty wide range 3-betting out of the small blind after I raise in the hijack. He's not just going to have huge big pocket pairs. I think he's going to have some hands that will fold to some more aggression. So that's what I decided to do. I put in another raise. I make it $3,800 to go. I like 4-bet bluffing with this hand. I have a suited ace, I can flop flush draws, top pairs. I don't block any hands that he may 3-bet and fold, such as king queen offsuit, king jack offsuit, jack 10, hands like that. He doesn't think for too long and calls. So we are playing another 4-bet pot here on Hustler Casino Live. This potentially could be a big one. There's around $8,000 in the middle, and the flop comes out ace high, giving me top pair. Small blind player checks over to me. I bet 1/4 size of the pot, 2,000, and he makes the call. Turn card queen. I think I'm gonna pot control now. He could have a better ace. He could also have turned a set of queens. So I'm gonna check this one back for deception, and like I said before, pot control. Final card is the 3 of hearts. Backdoor flush does get there. I don't improve to any 2 pair. I still just have a medium strength ace. But when my opponent checks to me for a 3rd time, I think I most likely always have the best hand here. And I feel like the best sizing here is to make it look like a bluff and go all in. So that is what I decided to do. I rip it all in for $13,800 effective in a 4-bet pot with an ace medium kicker. I don't get snap called right away, which is great. That means he does not have a flush. He does not have 2 pair. My opponent goes into the tank for a very long time, over 2 minutes of thinking, and finally he comes up with his decision.
Ju calls it off. Well, Lexo got a lot more value there than I would have.
And it gets better when I finally get a monster pocket queens under the gun. I raised to 120, hijack calls 120, cutoff calls 120, and then Crazy Drew gets a little bit crazy on the button when he re-raises me to $350. Nate is in a pretty sick spot here with pocket 10s out of position. He decides to call the 350. Johnny calls 350, and we are in a dream spot here with queens. Look at all this dead money. I have a great image of being a crazy bluffer this entire stream, and I finally have it this time. Obviously, we're going to be putting in a 4-bet, but I think my plan is, instead of 4-betting huge, like $2,000 and allowing Drew or Nate to fold out better hands, I think I should 4-bet small, allowing Crazy Drew to potentially back raise all in for his $3,000. That will reopen the action, and I can 6-bet jam if anybody calls his 5-bet jam, if that makes sense to you. I make it $1,100 to go, and now the action's over here on steady.
Crazy Drew 3-bet to 350 with ace queen. Kennedy just feeling it with the ace jack of hearts. Full send here from Kennedy. Hold his pocket.
Sorry.
So.
You got him? You got him, yeah.
Great spot here for Lexo.
You guys all want to go once?
He's got his opponents kind of cannibalizing each other with ace-x hands. He's got a fake.
What a dream spot for us. Queens versus ace-jack versus ace-queen for a $16,000 pot. I'm 71% favorite. Kennedy wants to go once, so it's 5 cards, 1 time for a $16K pot.
Instant sweat here. Heart, flop.
What a sweat.
Kennedy with the nut heart draw. Kennedy has a little nut flush as a reducer with the queen of hearts in his hand, though.
You're getting one coming. Once or twice?
Instant pain on the turn, 2 of hearts.
Oh, man. That sucks. Kennedy gets it in with the worst of it, flops a flush draw, and turns us both dead to win $10,000 of profit. I lose around $6,000 here. I get dealt in 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds. I raise to $200 over a $40 straddle. I get 5 calls, an action-packed game. This one is 6 ways to a dreamy flop. Ace, 10, 9. A set. Finally, a big flop for us. I check out of position like I would with probably 100% of my range. Steady bets $500. Kennedy calls $500. I've been playing like a maniac this entire session for this exact spot. I finally have a big hand. I've check raised bluff a few times and not gotten it through. This time I'm check raising with value. $2,100 to go back over on Steady, who goes all in for less. Kennedy, who is definitely playing some crazy action poker, makes the call for $2,100. And just like that, this pot is escalated quickly. $7,200 in the main, and I have a huge $8,000 on the side effective with Kennedy. Once Kennedy calls my bet, think he's got an ace-x hand sometimes, maybe some straight draws. We're going heads up here to the turn with a lot of money to play for. Let's see if we can hold.
On the side.
Queen on the turn. Unbelievable.
3,000.
What a find by Kennedy.
Call.
You got to bet on an all-in. Lexo's going to be disgusted to see what turns.
Connected.
Steady has a lot of his outs as well with the ace and the 9. That's going to be a skinny boat fill-up for Lexo.
Ace coming. That's your hope. You have 2 pair?
Narrow path to victory here for Lexo. Can he find it? 2 on the river. What a hand for Kennedy, the dream crusher.
Goodness.
So we play another stand-up game. I've lost 3 stand-up games in a row, and now I'm heads up again to potentially lose another stand-up game. The player to my right, who is Will, he plays on Hustler Casino Live. He was down here in Florida for some gambling and some poker. He was sitting to my right, and it was heads up between him and I to lose the stand-up game. I've lost 3 in a row. I do not want to lose another stand-up game before this massive pot comes about. So the blinds are at 50, 100, and Will straddles to $200. Remember, I'm heads up with him in the stand-up game. Instead of acting first under the gun, I decide to re-straddle to $400, meaning that I will have last action pre-flop, and also by re-straddling here, it makes the pots bigger, and it also kind of de-incentivizes the other players who are already sitting to enter the pot. If it's only a $200 straddle, someone may open a little bit wider. If the $400 straddle's on, people have to open up a little bit tighter, given the fact that the $400 straddle's on. So anyway, I straddled to $400 under the gun with a $30,000 stack. The VIP player to my left, who's been playing about 50% of hands, limps for $400. He calls. Folds all the way around to the small blind, who is a good competent pro, and he raises it up to $2,000 off about a $35,000 stack. The big blind player cold calls $2,000, and Will, to my right, Hustler Casino Live regular, folds his cards, which I think is great. Now that Will folds, all I have to do is win this hand, and I will not lose the stand-up game. It's much better if had Will called, then I'll have to fight against him, but Will folds. So I look down in the $400 straddle at ace of clubs, 5 of clubs, and now I have a decision to make. There's a $400 straddle, a call for 400, small blind raises to 2,000, big blind calls 2,000, and I think to myself, what is the best way for me to win this pot? I could call $2,000 and go multi-way, try to hit an ace. I could try to hit a flush draw or a pair or a straight or maybe bluff, but that's going to be kind of hard to do multi-way. The VIP player would mostly always come into the hand if I called. I could potentially put in a 3-bet as well, something like $7,000 or $8,000, but with the stack sizes, it's a little bit awkward in that situation. Also, my third option, which is an interesting one, that is to just rip it all in for my $29,000 stack. So with the $400 straddle on, with $29,000 in my stack, that is, let me do some math here. That's 72 big blinds. Now, I knew I had around 70 big blinds to start the hand, and I feel like the best way for me to win this pod is potentially put max pressure on my opponents and jam all in. Now, if I go all in here, I can get a lot of better hands to fold. Hands like ace-9 suited, ace-10 suited, ace-jack offsuit, ace-queen offsuit, even some middling pocket pairs, pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, they may fold as well. Also some offsuit Broadway hands that I'm actually beating. I feel like the best option here is to apply max pressure and just go for it. So that's what I do. I close my eyes and I announce all in for $29,000. Now, I'm expecting the VIP player who limped pre-flop to just fold his cards and for the action to be on the small blind, but that doesn't happen. The VIP player to my left asks the dealer, how much is it? And everybody at the table kind of chuckles and laughs because it's such a big shove, and this player who called $400 is now asking how much my shove is. The dealer counts it out. It's $29,200. My opponent on the left has around $28,000, so it basically covers him. He thinks for a while, and obviously I'm praying for him to fold, but I have no idea what he has. He could just have pocket 6s. He could have king-queen suited. He could have pocket 10s. He could have aces. I don't know. I have no idea. He thinks for around 2.5 minutes, and eventually he announces call. Oh, God. Small blind player folds. Big blind player folds. I look over at the VIP player and I say, once or twice. He looks up and he says, one time. So this is it. The biggest pot I've ever played in my entire life. $60,000 in the middle. I made a very aggressive 3-bet shove with ace-5 suited in a $400 straddle pot. It's a massive hand, a massive spot, and my opponent says one time, okay, ace-5 suited, flop comes out, king, 6, 7, no clubs. Oh, not good. Turn queen, river card, deuce. I look over at him, and he shows pocket jacks. I slide my ace-5 suited into the muck. The entire table congratulates the VIP player for winning the biggest pot of the night. High fives. Exciting for him. I'm the only one who's not excited. I just lost the biggest pot of my entire life. The dealer takes my chips, moves them over to my opponent. He takes them and stacks them up. He's smiling. He's happy. The whole table's happy, except for me. The very next hand after that pocket kings, there's a $200 straddle, a button raised to 500, and I've got ace queen in the small blind. I would say 95% of the time I would put in a 3-bet squeeze here, but given the fact that the hand right before this, I went all in for $20,000 and nobody saw my cards, I don't think I will get too much credit with a 3-bet squeeze, so I decided to just flat call, which I think is fine. Going 4 ways to a good flop of queen, 5, 2, 2 spades, top pair, top kicker for me. Action checks around on the flop, turn card 9 of clubs. Our hand is definitely worthy of a bet here, so I bet around 2/3 size of the pot. $1,400 to go. Harry gets a count and then announces raise. He makes it $4,000 to go. And right off the bat, I'm not too happy with this situation. Harry hasn't gotten out of line this entire session. He doesn't seem to be on tilt. I don't think he's bluffing here too often. I don't think I'm ever getting away from my hand, so I think the best option here is just to go all in. Get max value from a weaker queen, also get max value from a straight draw and flush draw as well. So that's what I do. I announce all in for $10,000 and Harry snap calls me. Oh God, I don't like that he snap called me. It's very possible we could be drawing dead. I ask him once or twice and he says one time. You're actually only allowed to run it once. I am pleasantly surprised when I see that he's got Jack 10 for just an open-ended straight draw. We're 84% favorite to win over a $21,000 pot. All we have to do is fade an 8 or a king, and we do. Ace of spades on the river, overkill, top 2 pair for us, and just like that, we win over a $21,000 pot. 11.4K profit being shipped our way. Action Dan is just running over this table. As you can see in front of him, he has 2 buttons, meaning that he's won 2 hands in a row. He picked up the $2,500 bounty, and now he's going for his 3rd win in a row, which would be a $6,000 bounty. Patrick raises from early position. Dan calls next to act. I call with 6-5 of clubs, and we end up going 6 ways to a flop of 3, 4, 5 with 1 club. I flop very well with top pair and an open-ended straight draw. Once Patrick checks, Dan now leads out for a pot-sized bet of $1,200, which doesn't surprise me at all. He has a $6,000 ante inside this pot. The pot's $1,200, but really to him, the pot's close to $8,000. I just make the call, which I think is a mistake. I feel like I just want to be raising my hand versus Action Dan and probably just trying to get it in versus him, versus his potential range. I mean, he's going to be betting a ton of hands on this board. Ted makes the call as well, and we go 3 ways now to the ace of spades on the turn. Dan fires again for $4,500. You know what I said earlier about a player not usually bluffing once they get 2 calls? Well, that goes completely out of the window when a player is going for a $6,000 bounty. Because this bounty is so big, it makes Dan so much more likely to be bluffing trying to take down this pot so that he can win the bounty. I think with a hand as strong as mine, a pair, and open-ended straight draw versus this particular player, can't really be folding. He's representing a very strong hand once he bets pot on this turn, basically saying he's got a straight with a 2 or something like 6-7. I block 6-7, so I make the call. Ted makes the fold. $13,000 in the middle, hoping for some help here, maybe a 7, maybe a 2. Give me a straight one time. No, it's the king of hearts. Obviously, I would love it if Dan checks to me. I would snap check back, but I know that's just not going to be the case. I realize here that if Dan has a total air ball like queen high, jack high, 10 high, 8 high, any of these hands, he's going to fire out for a huge sizing trying to get me to fold. I do think he would check hands like ace X for top pair, because that hand doesn't need a bluff, it's just trying to get to showdown. Even if he did have 2 pair, he may just check, hoping that maybe I would bluff and that he could hero call me. So when he fires out a $13,500 bet, he's basically representing a 2 for a straight, 6-7 for a straight, or a total complete airball bluff. Real quickly, I'll tell you guys what was going through my mind. I don't think he ever has an ace-X holding here. One, I don't think he's ever betting this size with an ace. I also don't think he ever has an ace because he just called Patrick's raise pre-flop. He would always be 3-betting his ace-X holdings pre-flop, trying to take it down. I don't think he's got 2 pair or a set or a king-X hand or pocket 9s or pocket 10s. He would never go this sizing with those particular hands. So basically, like I said, he's got a straight or a bluff. I block the straight. Really tough spot here. I don't want to call and look like an idiot and be wrong, but it's really hard to make a straight. I don't know. Dan's a wild player. If he's got me, he's got me. Eventually, I make the call.
It's the call. Wow, what an attempted hero call from Lex O. The leveling from the bounty game induces one of the most insane calls of the night. Actually, the most insane call of the night. Next to Mariano's King 4.
I played a few exciting pots so far, but nothing too crazy. However, that is all about to change. Ted raises to $200, Patrick calls $200, Action Dan re-raises now to $1,200. Pocket 7's on the button, pretty deep stack versus Action Dan. Being super wide all the time, I decide to 3-bet here. I make it $4,000 to go. I actually made a mistake in this hand. I thought Ted straddled for $200, Patrick called and Dan raised, but it turns out Ted raised, Patrick called, and Action Dan 3-bet. If I would have known this, I probably wouldn't have re-raised on the button, because technically I'm 4-betting here. I probably would have just called this 3-bet. But now the action's back over on Dan, and he decides to put in another raise, a 5th bet pre-flop to $11,200. I am sitting pretty deep stacked here, $38,000 effective, but I gotta call $7,000 more. Pocket 7s probably are not the best hand anymore. However, I flew all the way out here to California to play some huge pots and break some records, and I'm not gonna break any records by folding, so I make the call for $7,200 more. 5-bet pot with pocket 7s, $22,000 in the middle, heads up to King, Queen, 7. Oh my God. I flop bottom set in a 5-bet pot in position versus a crazy action player. He continues for a $6,500 bet, and I remember that this feeling I had right now was one of the best feelings I've ever had. I make a huge hand. I'm pretty sure I'm way ahead here. I'm not going to raise and scare him off or fold out any of his bluffs. I'm going to smooth call here, so that's what I do. Line out $6,500 and slide it into the middle. I have a great hand, but I do lose to kings and queens. Also, the turn card could be bad and kill my action, or maybe improve him to a straight or flush, and the turn is the jack of diamonds. Not the best card, but Action Dan checks over to me. I've got $20,000 in my stack. $35,000 in the middle. I think there's just one option. I rip it all in.
All in. All in.
This sucks.
All in and a call.
Just aces.
One time.
I get called, and now I'm playing a $76,000 pot with a set. I hear Dan say just aces. I'm not sure if that's what hand he has. He's not showing his cards. We're going to run out this board one time. If he does have aces, I just got to fade a 10 or an ace. My heart is pounding. I'm incredibly nervous here. I'm pretty sure I'm ahead, but I hope that I can hold on the river. One-time dealer, final card, Queen of Hearts. I make a full house and win the biggest pot of my entire life on a Thursday night here in Los Angeles, California at Hustler Casino Live with Pocket 7s. Realize I gotta get back to this table. Dr. P races to $300 under the gun. Jungle Man re-races in the hijack to $1,200. Francisco folds. And Action Dan 4-bets to $5,000 in the small blind, and I'm in the big blind with Ace King offsuit. $20,000 deep, 200 big blinds effective, under the gun raise, hijack re-raise, cold 4-bet out of the small blind. Given this structure and given this action, Ace King is just a fold in the big blind. It sucks to say, but you just got to let this one go. They could easily have aces or kings. It's not really worth it to get involved. I think the best play here is just to fold, except not in this game. No way I'm ever folding ace king here. I 5-bet jam all in for $20,000.
What's the total here?
Looks like 20.
Yeah.
14.
Action Dan is not folded yet, despite our graphic. So it's 15,000 to call. The pot's got 27 in it, just about. He snapped off with the queen 8, and I think he knows, since he did just call, he knows it's not a bluff.
I can't say. Action Dan asked me if he makes a call and I lose, am I going to be mad? And I didn't really know how to answer this. I mean, with 15K behind, once he doesn't snap call, I know Ace King is way far ahead of his range. I want the action. I'm down $30,000, so I just kind of say nothing at all. And eventually he does call. $42,000 pot. We're going to run out this board one time. Ace King versus Queen 9. I'm 63% favorite to win a massive pot.
I want to gamble. So let's gamble. And there's a 9. I told you I had a good feeling about this one. See if it holds. Lexo needs help. Lexo now drawing dead to an ace or a king.
I have ace high.
I have a pair.
Queen 8 was no good, but Queen 9 is good against the Ace King. So Action Dan loses about 18,000 with Queen 8, and then he wins it all back and then some.
Dan buys the blinds and does a $300 straddle. Pocket jacks again for me. I'm picking up some pocket pairs now. I make it $800 to go. A pretty big raise size. Tom makes the call in middle position. Back over to Dan, who starts thinking. And you know when he's thinking, he's probably thinking about putting in another raise. And he does. He makes it $3,800 here. He actually has a hand, pocket tens this time. And I already know exactly what I'm going to do. Less than 100 big blinds deep, pocket jacks versus Action Dan. Can never fold. I don't think calling is good. A lot of dead money in the pot. So I rip it all in. Tom folds. Action Dan snap calls, and again, we're going to run out this board one time. Over $40,000 in the middle. I have no idea what he has. He called me earlier with Queen 9. He could have ace high, king high, pocket kings, pocket queens. I don't know, but this is another massive pot with pocket jacks. Please, please, poker gods, one time, let me win one. You guys can see he's got pocket tens, but I don't know this. If I lose this pot, I'll be down $70,000, and there's a queen and a king on the board. 2 overcards to my pair. It's not looking great for my pocket jacks. Am I going to get stacked for a third time? No. Oh my God. I show the jacks, and they're good. And finally, after 3 hours of getting crushed, being down the most I've ever been down my entire life, I actually win a pot. I win a $40,000 pot, $20,000 worth of profit. Next up, Jaywin races to 500 under the gun. 8-9 of clubs for me next to act. I think this is a 3-bet or fold hand given this lineup in my position, so I like to go with a 3-bet here to $1,800. I don't really want to go multi-way out of position with a hand like 8-9 of clubs. Would rather go heads up in position or just take this one down pre-flop. Terrace, however, has a re-raise face on, and a re-raise is what he decides to do. He puts in a 4th bet here pre-flop in the small blind to 6,500. Back over to Jaywin, who folds, and now the action's on me. 8-9 of clubs facing a $6,500 4-bet by Terrace. I'm over 300 big blinds deep in position. I think this is a pretty easy call looking to see a flop. When Jaywin opens from early position and I 3-bet, I think Terrace's 4-bet range is going to be skewed of having hands like pocket jacks, queens, kings, aces, ace, king, and maybe ace, queen. So when the flop comes down 6, 9, 10, all spades, I think this is a great board for me. I'm beating hands now like ace, king, and ace, queen, and I do have a lot of equity against hands like queens, kings, and aces. On a super wet connected board like this, the re-raiser wants to check according to the book, but Terrace does not like to listen to the book. He wants to bet. He's a very aggressive player. He makes it $3,000. My hand could go either way with a call or a raise. Could raise to get folds from ace-king, ace-queen. Could potentially start setting up a bluff to get him off queens, kings, or aces. But I like to call, which I think is fine as well. And the turn card's an interesting one. It's a jack, now improving me to an open-ended straight draw, along with a pair. This does bring in pocket jacks for a set, brings in king, queen for a straight. There's $20,000 in the middle, and Terrace now decides to check over to me. Interesting spot. This pot is huge. 4-bet pot. Third pair for me. I decided to check, going to the river, which is an 8 of diamonds, giving me 2 pair. However, any 7 makes a straight now, and any queen makes a straight as well. I am liking this 8 giving me 2 pair. I am now beating hands like aces and kings, maybe a hand like king-jack suited, ace-jack suited, but I'm not too happy with my hand once I see Terrace fire out a $21,000 bet. Alright, let's break this one down. So Terrace 4-bet pre-flop, he bet the flop and checked the turn. I don't think he's ever checking the turn with a flush. I just think he's betting a lot of the time with a flush. Also, in 4-bet pots, it's a little less likely to have suited cards. He's going to have a lot of offsuit ace-queen, ace-king, and also some pocket pairs. So I don't think he has a flush. I don't think he has a set like pocket jacks, because that would most likely always bet the turn. I do think it's definitely possible he could have a bluff, like a hand like ace-king with the ace or king of spades. Could be a total airball like ace-5 of hearts or ace-4 of clubs. Or potentially turn a hand like aces with the ace of spades or kings with the king of spades into a bluff. Now, just like earlier when I was playing against Clue and I hero called him with queen-jack on a king-high board, is this opponent capable of bluffing? And of course, yes, Terrace is capable of bluffing. Just so far at this table tonight, I saw him pull a suicide bluff against Mariano with queen high for a massive $80,000+ pot. And then I also watched him bet $20,000 on the river against Jaywin with ace king high and get called by a single pair. So Terrace is of course definitely capable of betting for this sizing with a bluff. Now let's talk about his bet sizing. He bets a pot size bet on the river. When someone bets the size of the pot, they're usually pretty polarized to a very, very good hand, or they're bluffing. I don't think he has a flush with the reasons I stated earlier. I think he would always bet the turn with a flush. Also way less likely for him to have suited cards when he puts in a 4-bet pre-flop. I don't think he has a 7, nor would he be betting a 7 for this sizing, because I could easily have a queen. He could easily have a queen here with a hand like pocket queens, ace queen, or king queen. Now, would king queen and pocket queens check the turn? I don't think he would ever check the turn with king queen. Maybe he would check the turn with pocket queens for pot control, but I think he would actually continue to bet the turn with pocket queens if he decides to bet this flop. In my head here, after analyzing the play, I don't think he ever has a flush. I don't think he ever has a 7. I think the only hands I'm really losing to in this situation that would play this way are ace queen and maybe pocket queens, but I don't think he checks the turn with pocket queens, so I really only lose to ace queen. I beat a lot of bluffs. Like I said earlier, against a player like this, he's down over $100,000 on a Texas live stream. I think I have to put my foot down and make the call.
And Terrace is going to take down almost a $62,000 pot with his straight.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, let's get into the hand of the night. I'm on the button, very next hand after the small blind hand where I made a straight with 5-4 offsuit. And I will preface this by saying we've already ordered 2 bottles of wine and finished both of them. There's definitely been some drinking on the sidelines here today. I've got 2 fish in front of me trying to collect one more. I get dealt in and look down at 5-4 offsuit again. Very odd. I just grab a stack of green chips over 2 limps and raise it here to an amount that I'm not really sure what it is. But I feel like once raising here to this sizing, unless someone has a monster, they're just going to fold and I'm going to take down this dead money. Back over to the first limper who called $25. He looks over at me, looks at my stack, and now makes the call for $5.25. Now, this opponent is my friend Steve, who I've been playing with for a few years now. He has a pretty massive stack for this game. He's got around $12,000 in front of him, and I've been running like God this entire session, so I actually cover him. And just like that, we are playing over a $1,000 pot. With 5-4 offsuit, we're going heads up here in position 2, 10-6-3 rainbow, giving me an open-ended straight draw. When Steve checks to me, I bet out $1,000, one pumpkin orange chip, and now things get weird. Steve check raises me to $3,000 and then intensely stares at me while I'm thinking. Well, we have some options now. We're sitting super deep stacks, so I could call this $2,000 raise and try to hit a 7 or a 2 on the turn, but I don't really like that option because unless I hit my straight on the turn, I'm most likely going to face a $5,000 or $6,000 bet, so I'm basically calling $2,000 for just one single card. Now, I could take the tight nitty route, which this entire hand has been the complete opposite, and I could just fold my equity, relinquish my cards, and then I have to give away my fish that I truly worked so hard to earn. I don't really like that option. There is a third option, and that is potentially to put in another raise. Now, if we go back to pre-flop, I don't think Steve's going to have too strong of a hand on this board. He just called $25, and then when I raised to $525, he just called that bet out of position, meaning I don't think he's ever going to have an overpair like jacks, queens, kings, and aces. I don't think he's going to have pocket 10s either. Shouldn't have any 2 pairs on this board like 10-6, 10-3, or 6-3 when he calls $500 out of position. So basically here when he raises to 3K, I think he thinks that I'm making a move on the button, and if he has a hand like pocket 8s or pocket 9s or ace 10 or jack 10, he may think that hand is good and he's raising for protection. I think if I go over the top, he's basically going to fold out every single hand but pocket 6s and pocket 3s. After some deliberation in my head, I decide I'm going to go with option number 3. If I put in another raise, I can put max pressure on his 1 pair holdings, and if I somehow run into a monster and get called, well, I'll be able to run out the board 2 times and pray to hit a 7 or a 2. So I take a deep breath, I close my eyes, and I announce all in for over $12,000. All in. All in.
Call.
Okay, you're ahead.
Don't pair the board. Please don't pair
No, you're way ahead.
Please don't pair the board.
I have 4-5. Wait, 2 times. 2 times.
2 times.
Well, as you can see, I stepped right into it. Steve has one of those hands I just never thought he would have. 10-3 suited for 2 pair on the flop. He snap calls my bet, and we're all in here for a $25,000 pot. I've got 5 high. Now, I do have some outs. Could go runner, 5-5 or 4-4. Could just hit a 7 or a 2. All I know is I got to get lucky if I want to get some money back. 2 boards. Let's see what happens. Oh! Oh my God. I somehow hit a miracle 7 on the first turn and fade the full house to lock up half of this $25,000 pot. The second board comes off with the 8 of hearts, giving me even less outs because Steve now has a flush draw and 2 pair. I only have 5 cards that can help me. Let's see if we can get there one time. Keep it small. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, sorry, Steve. That's
It's chopped?
No, I hit it straight both. I hit it straight on both. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Are you
Sorry, Steve. That's
Are you
bad.
kidding me?